Yo, what's up, people out there in YouTube? As of season 3, I kind of gave up on the boys. It was just a little too much. And then you got the producer of the show basically saying that people who have not the same opinions on things that he does could basically not watch the show. And looks like a lot of people are saying okay. But it looks like the critical drinker decided to give his opinion on season 4. I had no plans on watching it at all. Like I said, I was out after season 3. So let's check out what he has to say. All right, here we go.
One of the questions that comes up pretty regularly on Open Bar these days is, Drinker, you tough-talking, charismatic gunslinger with a dark past, when are you going to review The Boys Season 4? The Boys.
Now that's a name I've not heard in a long time.
You know, I used to be a real fan of that show, to the point where I actually gave the first season a Drinker Recommends Awards. And truly, what higher accolade can one bestow upon a work of art these days? Anyway, at a time when the superhero genre was already becoming kind of stale and played out, The Boys came along.
Because Hollywood did what Hollywood does, is they overdo stuff. It's like you ask for a little bit of something because it's something different, and they just give you boatloads of it to the point where you're sick of seeing it. I like chocolate, but if you gave me tons of chocolate every day, at some point I will get sick of chocolate.
To completely tear up the rulebook. Funny, violent, irreverent, and wickedly subversive, with a complex and well-written cast of heroes and villains, plus a whole lot of other characters in between, and a story that brutally skewered everything from fake corporate activism to our obsession with celebrity culture, media manipulation, and cultural warfare.
Yeah, in other words, it was a good show. A good show that pointed out all the things that people have problems with the world as it is right now. And then it lost its way as it became more popular. So, which is basically how most things go.
It was really everything you could look for in a show like this. I kinda checked out after season 3, partly because I was pretty burned out with superhero stories in general, even shows that subverted the genre, and partly because I could see the way The Boys was heading as a creative property.
It didn't really help that the showrunner kept telling us how he hated people who didn't think like him. So,
Complex, nuanced, and multifaceted characters were slowly morphing into simplified parodies of themselves. The central storyline was becoming trite and predictable, and the bitingly witty satire was becoming more overt and partisan with every season, parroting the same predictable talking points as every other Hollywood product.
that is because a lot of these people live in a bubble. So when they come on, they say stuff, like when Jack Black basically was, I don't know what it was he was trying to accomplish. He just kind of look at it like, you live in Hollywood, so of course you think like that. So
Basically,
the
The Boys just wasn't cool or interesting anymore. It wasn't fighting the power, it was the power.
Yes.
It wasn't raging against the machine, it was part of it. What was once...
You cannot be associated with Amazon and think that you are some kind of rebel fighting against, like, you're the little man fighting against the big whatever. You either work for Disney or you work for Amazon or one of these other places. You are, like you said, you are the establishment. You are not the rebel.
rebellious, subversive, and irreverent had become just another mouthpiece for the safe, corporatized, hollow, and performative activism that it once so brutally mocked. So I wasn't exactly brimming with excitement at the prospect of sacrificing another 8 hours of my increasingly limited lifespan for the new season. Frankly, I've got better things to do with my time. But hey, maybe they managed to turn things around. I mean, Stranger Things was drinking at the Last Chance Saloon for me after a disastrously bad season 3, only for the showrunners to listen to fan complaints and come back with an absolute banger of season 4. Maybe we'd actually...
Yeah, like Picard. Like, they put a guy in charge of Picard season 3 who actually liked Star Trek, understood Star Trek, listened to the fans' complaints about the first 2 seasons of Picard, changed all of that, and basically ignored all the stuff that these people hated and made a actual really good Star Trek series, a fitting into the next generation. And if you have not seen it, I suggest you go see it. Ignore the first two because basically this guy did. So there are like another example is Sonic. Sonic comes out, they tried to change it into whatever that thing was that they changed it to. People freaked out. The director, instead of doing what they normally do, is tell people to piss off. When okay, he listened. They changed the design, pushed the movie back, and then when it came out, everybody went to go see it. And now they're working on their third one, which would not have happened if he hadn't listened to like the audience or the paying customer. So there are examples of this. I don't know why these folks don't refuse to listen to this stuff, but it is what it is.
Actually get something similar here. So it was off to Rotten Tomatoes for me to check out the reviews. Not the critic reviews, of course, because nobody in their right mind gives a shit what those fucking shills have got to say about anything anymore. I'm talking about the audience reviews, which is the only semi-reliable barometer for quality these days, and I mean,
no, it's not as bad as the Alkalite, I give it that, but 50%, not good.
the audience scores had been gradually declining from an all-time high of 90% in Season 1 to 75% by Season 3, but that's kind of in line with most shows, to be fair. But there's no denying that Season 4 absolutely fell off a cliff. Good lord, I don't think I've seen a fanbase turn so hard on any show since Game of Thrones.
Because essentially Season 3 was not about the actual boys, it was about the girls who is like, but we want to watch the boys. We want to watch Carl Urban and Mother's Milk and, all that stuff. Banter with each other and go through whatever their little adventures. Not so much interested in Starlight and the rest of them because they aren't the focus of this. They shouldn't be the focus of the show. The show should be about the boys. That's why it's called that.
Look through the reviews and you'll see page after page of absolutely brutal write-ups, all saying basically the same thing. The general consensus is that the show seems to have sacrificed writing quality and smart characterization in favour of simplistic shock value and cheap political point scoring.
Yeah, that's what I noticed about the trailer, and that's really... The Season 3 made me not interested. Watching the trailer for Season 4, I really made me not interested. Like, I get it. Highlander is Superman, and he's a Superman who doesn't care about people, so therefore he doesn't hold back. So, and also that means that there'll be a lot of blood and people killed and all that other stuff. But it just got to the point where it was just ridiculous. And once you get to that point, it's not shock value anymore. It is just like, what the hell? It's kind of weird blood gore fantasy thing that you got going on. And like that spinoff was like really... The trailer for the spinoff was just as bad. As like, dude, what am I watching?
Short, the writers have become more interested in getting their own personal ideology across and owning the chuds, rather than actually telling a good story.
The chuds are half of your customer base. They seem to forget that.
And well, that sort of strategy never really pays off.
No.
Naturally, I was curious to get the other side of the story, so I took a look at a recent interview with showrunner Eric Kripke in The Hollywood Reporter, and he had this to say about accusations that the show had become too partisan. I clearly have a perspective, and I'm not shy about putting that perspective in the show. Anyone who wants to call the show woke or whatever, that's okay. Go watch something else.
Your perspective is woke because you're probably surrounded by people who are woke, who are telling you that keep doing what you're doing because somehow a mysterious audience that doesn't exist will show up. So, yeah. So I'm quite sure that you actually believe what you said. It's not good, but,
But I'm certainly not going to pull any punches or apologise for what we're doing. Some people who watch it think Homelander is the hero. What do you say to that? The show's many things, subtle isn't one of them. So if that's the message you're getting from it, I just throw up my hands.
I don't know anybody who thinks Highlander is a hero. I think that he was a well-written villain for the first 2 seasons, and yeah, I don't know who it is who you are talking to. Is one of these things where there's a saying that I heard that conservatives understand liberals. Liberals do not understand conservatives because they turn conservatives into some weird boogeyman, and conservatives have a tendency to just, because you get to see liberals all the time, so therefore you kind of know how a lot of them think. Not all of them, but you kind of have a general idea of what they think because they will tell you constantly.
You know, why do I feel like this is rapidly becoming a tale as old as time? A
'Cause it
show
is.
gets popular and goes mainstream,
Yeah.
the writers get a little too overconfident and think they can use it as a platform for their own personal hang-ups, the fans start to push back against them, and instead of taking that criticism on board and responding in a constructive manner, they just say, fuck it, go watch something else, you dicks.
And they cry when that happens. It happens over and over and over and over again. It is actually pretty amazing. You tell people to piss off, and then they do, and then you are sitting around wondering why they did what you told them to do. I don't understand that.
Kinda reminds me of this idiot who did her level best to tank the American comic book industry and then had the balls to berate her own customers for not loving what she was doing.
And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book.
I think like late last year, there was a text or something that she put out complaining about the state of the comic book industry. When she said that, in her brain, the comic book industry was strong. So basically what that means is that she was selling enough books where she can pretend that everything was fine. Once she got to the point where she could no longer pretend to herself that everything was fine, then she started all the complaints and all this other stuff, trying to figure out how to fix this. I'm like, you told everybody to not read your book and they took you up on it. Actions have consequences.
Me told. And you girls enjoy yourself.
It's the entertainment equivalent of that asshole kid who takes his ball and flounces off home because everyone else won't play the game the way he wants them to. It's this weird narcissistic sense of entitlement amongst creatives these days that everyone should just unconditionally support and agree with you because you're such a paragon of wisdom that there's no possibility you could ever be wrong about anything.
Which to me is a very childish viewpoint of the world. It's like, I have my opinions. I know not all of them are 100%, but they're my opinions. You're entitled to your opinions. It is not up to me to force you to have my opinions because they're my opinions. And I have to respect the fact that if I want you to respect my opinions, I have to respect your opinions. We can disagree and we can have a discussion on that disagreement and function and exist as functional adults. If I'm saying that right.
The problem, Eric, is that other people don't always think exactly the same way we do.
Yep.
They don't always share our beliefs, parrot our opinions, mirror our viewpoints on every topic. And that's okay, because people are allowed to have different points of view.
Your opinion comes from your life experience, where you grew up at, who you were raised by, who was around you, the things that have happened to you, the good and the bad things that have happened to you. All of those things will shape how you view the world. Now, if you're an open person, you can accept new information and change your opinion. Not everybody's an open person. A lot of people think that they are, but they're not. You can accept the fact that maybe your opinion is incorrect and someone else can be right. That guy does not strike me as that kind of a person. It's like, again, if you're surrounded by people who think like you assume that everybody thinks like you, and they don't.
A smart, humble, and creative writer finds ways to bridge the gap between all these different groups through the unifying concept of good storytelling.
Yeah, like I love a lot like old school kind of science fiction, and you get the guy where you can kind of tell he leans left or he leans right based on the world that he created, but you can infuse your own viewpoints to the story a bit because the way that it is written is more universal, and that's the hallmark of a good storyteller.
A bad writer, on the other hand, tries to hammer home his opinions on his audience with sheer brute force and then gets angry and resentful when they push back against it. I'll let you decide which one you used to be and which one you are now. Also, it's interesting watching the discourse around the boys on social media, which I can best summarise as, the boys used to be smart and fun, now it's all about pushing politics and nothing else. Cry harder, chuds. Don't you know this show was always making fun of people like you?
Sheer fucking hubris.
No, Star Trek was not. X-Men were not. Star Wars was not. I can go down the laundry list of things that were not attacking their customer base. This is a new thing. This is like a decade, 15 years or whatever it is thing where these people they aren't interested in making money. They're interested in getting their opinion across. They don't know why that is. Like I'm kind of older, so some of this stuff I can't even like some of this stuff I can't really put my mind around because it just seems so strange to me.
Okay, let's get this over with.
Mhm.
Yes, most people with functioning brain cells knew exactly what this show was and where its political sympathies lay. Nobody in their right mind looked at Homelander as a misunderstood hero that
That is crazy.
represented the voice of the masses. Nobody looked at Stormfront and thought, you know what, she's got a point there. Nobody clapped and cheered when the Deep forced himself on Starlight, and it's complete gaslighting to suggest otherwise. The show was never particularly subtle about its politics or what it expected its audience to take from it. The difference,
You told a good story, so therefore people were able to ignore that.
though, is that for the first couple of seasons at least, it was actually fun and entertaining because the creative focus was still on the story and characters. And believe it or not, people can be surprisingly receptive to your political ideas when they're smartly presented and wrapped up inside an entertaining product.
There are plenty of YouTubers that I look at that have a more left-leaning viewpoint of the world, that there's a lot of stuff that they think that I don't agree with, but I'm open-minded enough to listen. So therefore, I'm trying to be a more well-rounded person because they could have a legitimate reason why they believe like they do, which is what a good storyteller should be able to do. So that way you can actually tell stories from the viewpoint of many different people. And so you don't wind up with the same person over and over and over again in your stories who they may look different, but they all sound and talk the same.
People can empathize with characters that embody ideas they don't normally support, as long as those characters are well written and likable.
Yeah.
People are even capable of laughing at themselves when you point out the more absurd or extreme elements of their worldview, provided you do it in a way that's actually funny and insightful. In each of these cases, though, the primary focus should always be on entertaining your audience instead of lecturing or pandering to them, and I think this is where The Boys has finally come unstuck. The more strident and blatant your messaging becomes, the less entertained people are going to be, and the more of your audience you end up pushing away.
It's kind of like those extension, like those climate activists, like the ones who just threw paint or something onto Stonehenge. At some point, you keep blocking people from going home or going to the hospital. They're not listening to you at that point. So whatever, regardless of whatever point you're trying to make, if you hit someone over the head enough times, they will no longer listen to you. You could even be right. They won't care.
Instead of uniting them with entertainment, you end up dividing and alienating them with politics. And well, I hope it was all worth it, Eric. I hope it was worth tanking your franchise, tarnishing your legacy, and turning your own customers against you, all for the sake of some cheap political theatre that's going to be forgotten as soon as your show's over. I hope all those pats on the back that you and your fellow writers have given yourselves make you feel better when the show inevitably gets cancelled. And no, I don't think I will be watching season 4 of The Boys after all. Quite frankly, I've got better things to do, and I suspect you do as well. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
My sentiments exactly. I am not going to watch a second beyond the trailer of The Boys season 4, and there I've heard talks of season 5. I'm good. There's enough stuff already existing that I can get into. I don't need to watch this. And that's the thing that these people don't truly understand, is that I do not have to watch this. There's enough entertainment out there. I don't have to watch it. I got enough books, video games, various other things. Yeah, I don't. So continue to try to preach to a smaller and smaller audience, because even if people agree with you, they don't really want to hear that all the time. So therefore, they'll tune you out as well. So I don't know. Good luck to you, bruh. That's all I can say. So please, I will put a link to the Critical Drinkers video in the description. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment. It helps with the algorithm. Thank you. Have a good day. And I'm out. Later.